All right, welcome back to Getting Past the Premium, everybody. This one is a long time coming that we've had this on the calendar, Rob. I'm super excited to have Rob Jacomen on with me. It's been fun for him and I to go back and forth on social media, and we got a couple cool things in the works that we're building. But how you doing today, man?
I'm awesome. How about yourself? I'm
Good.
excited. I can't wait to
Good.
dive in. And Elliot, I've been a big fan of all the things you're doing, and the content you're putting out there is just awesome. And I think you and I really connect well. And, I think we're in sync in terms of what we think, the value that we can deliver to this industry and help people really get to where they want to go. And that's what I'm excited to talk to you about today.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know this is going to be fun. So before we dive in, we're going to try to talk through kind of a master class of starting out in the industry and how you can build a multi-million-dollar book. But before we do that, I want you to give your quick background, because I think it's important that everybody knows who you are and that you've done this before, right? So give everybody the 30,000-foot view of Rob and how you got here.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I appreciate that, Elliot. I started off this industry just like everybody else. I completely had no idea what I was doing, and just flying by the seat of my pants. But you know what? I had some really great mentors. I had a great foundation to build on, and I've been doing this now for over 20 years. So I've learned just about everything you can imagine. I've done every role you can imagine inside of an agency. And I had some great mentors, and I really credit my mentors for helping me understand exactly how to sell the right way.
Yeah.
And I can remember, it's probably 18 years now. I went to my first Scott Addis seminar at Cincinnati Insurance, and it was like a 3-day immersion into, how to sell, leading with risk management. And that's really what lit me up. Is I had a environmental health and safety background. I would call myself a nerdy engineer. So that really served me well in this industry to really be valuable to clients and to prospects who were looking for a real different way of just quoting, and, that whole minutia that we see so often in the industry. And I was like, hey, the greatest value I can deliver to a prospect or to a client is to really understand how I can help them solve problems from a risk management standpoint and really add value to their business to help them get to where they want to go.
Yeah.
So, over the course of those years, I built a $1.2 million book of business, started my own agency, sold a book of business, built a risk management firm. I've done just about everything you can imagine in this industry, and really gave me a perspective of, hey, if I wanted to start over right now, this is exactly what I would be doing. I would go take these steps. And I think that's a great segue into what you and I are going to talk about. And so my mission and purpose in this industry, I think I've been called to a higher calling. And that is, I want to help anyone who gets into this industry, whether you're new or you're a veteran, help you truly to build, grow, and scale the business of your dreams, so that you can make a huge impact on the industry that I absolutely love. I love this industry, and I love the people. I love the people who are trying to do great things.
Yeah.
And I just want to help you get better. And that's my mission now.
100%. I think you've always been so good about sharing, what you've learned over the years. And I want to highlight one thing in there that I think you and I align on again, but we've talked about how the training specifically for new producers in the industry isn't always that great, which can be understandable, right? I mean, smaller firms especially are doing a lot of things, wearing a lot of hats, and sometimes it's, you're hiring somebody and you're saying, hey, just go do it. I got my clients to take care of and everything. So I just want to impress upon everybody. You mentioned the word mentor in there. And I use the term coach. I think it's so important that any individual, any producer listening to this, don't just rely on those that are in your firm or supposed to be training you or whatnot. Go out and search out people that have done that or at the next level of where you want to get to, and see if they'll mentor you, see if they'll coach you, ask them questions. I've almost never had somebody in our industry not be willing to help and not be willing to give advice. And everybody is so gracious and so giving that's, I know what your mission is. I share the same passion for helping people be successful. So I just want to encourage everybody, I'm a big believer in getting a coach and having mentors that have already been there. You buy their knowledge and experience, get their time, and it's so valuable. So I want to put that out there. Any comments you have to that, I think is great as well. But I think it's so important.
I think that is the secret to success in this industry. I think the secret to success in anything, any business you go into, but even more so our industry, is finding and searching out those mentors who are where you want to go and who can help give you some guidance and help you chart your course, because everyone's different. Everyone's going to build a different book of business. Everyone has unique interests and passions. And I think that if you seek out those who you really respect and value, ask them questions. Ask them, hey, listen, if I'm starting off here, where do you recommend I start? Or, I'm having constant DMs in X and LinkedIn. Young guys are coming and asking me like, hey, I really liked, what you said resonated with me. I really like what you had to say. I'm starting off brand new. What do you recommend? Where do you recommend I start first?
Yeah.
So I think we're in a very giving industry. And I think even seeking those mentors and coaches outside of the industry are also very valuable, because they have a different perspective that we don't have. Sometimes when you're in the weeds and
Yeah, that's very
you're doing things a certain, like we've always done it this way, you know, uh, sometimes there's a lot of value in reaching out to others who are already achieving a certain level of success that you want to aspire to, and learn what they did to get to where they are, and model that,
Yep.
and start taking action. Don't just take these ideas and just be like, wow, that was great. Take action. That's the number one thing that I see when I'm coaching producers or consulting with agency owners. The number one characteristic or trait is the ability to take the information that you learn and take action on it, so that you can learn. You might make mistakes, and that's okay. But then take that information that you learn and actually execute on it. Take
Yep.
action and start producing a result and an outcome that you're looking for. And I think that's the number one trait. If you can learn, take action, make mistakes, fall,
Yep.
fail,
Not going to
get
be the end of
back
the
up,
world.
100%, and learn from those things. And that's going to make you, if you focus on being better, a little bit better every single day, you are going to achieve success. It's undeniable. You can't not succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. And I totally agree. And, success leaves clues. And, I think if you're engaging with those people that have had success, you're going to learn what they've done. But so now let's transition a little bit. I want to get into the kind of the meat of the conversation today, because we got a lot we can cover. But I really want to spend some time picking your brain again. You mentioned you've been in the business, you've built books of business multiple times, multi-million-dollar books of business. And so I wanted you to go back to when you were starting that, or if you were to start it today, right?
Mm-hmm.
New in the industry, you're a new producer. What would you be doing to set yourself up to build that book of business, right? And so, where would your focus be? Who would you be targeting? How would you set it up? Wherever you want to go, but I kind of want to dive into that particular piece of saying, okay, if you're sitting in that new producer's shoes, going, what do I do now? What's your process for thinking through how you're going to be successful?
Yeah, gosh, great question, Elliot. I think that the thing that I would start with if I was a brand new producer, or even if you've been in the business a while and you just want to pivot and really start taking some of what we are, the model that we talk about so much, I would start with first the mindset. It's really all about your mindset of, listen, if I become an expert, if I become a specialist, and listen, business owners, this is a fact. Business owners want to do business with experts.
Yeah.
They want to do business with people who specialize in their industry. Why is that? Well, because you then have a perspective of what keeps them up at night, what problems you can help to solve for that industry. You can create a unique sales process that speaks to and resonates with that target market. So one of the things that I think is really valuable, one of my mentors, absolutely phenomenal guy. I have so much respect for him. And this is what I learned. He said, he sat me down one time and he said, Rob, it takes the same amount of energy and effort to write a small account as it does a large account. And I was like, wait a minute, like that mindset shift, it's the number one reason I think that a lot of producers are held back from going after larger accounts, is that they have this thought or this idea that they're not good enough, or
Yeah.
they don't have enough resources, or they just can't compete with the big guys. And I can tell you emphatically that that is not true. It takes the same amount of effort. Pretty much, I mean, there's some complexities to larger accounts. Don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. They're just larger schedules, more complexity in terms of property and exposures and all that stuff. Taking all that away, that's fine. But if you really look at and you boil down our industry to one simple thing, it's going to take you the same amount of energy, the same amount of effort to write a small account as it does a larger middle market account, for example. And that's just the truth. And then once I got that in my mindset, that kind of unleashed this whole like, oh my gosh, what are the possibilities? Then you decide, you say, okay, what am I passionate about? What carriers do we have that I could specialize in specific industry niches or classes of business that I could then write all day long and build really valuable relationships with those underwriters, learn how to sell consultatively by leading with risk management. And here's my number one advice for a young producer: make a list of all the potential classes of business that you might be interested in going after. Make a list and then use the old NCAA bracket approach where you're like, okay, go through each one and start ranking them and say, all right, here are my top three.
Pros and cons. Yeah.
Focus on one thing, and that is, what are the top three problems I can help to solve
Bingo.
for the industry that you eventually choose, and that you make the commitment and put your stake in the ground and say, I'm committed to going after this industry. And I'm not going to be afraid, don't have FOMO, not going to be afraid of missing out on all these other opportunities. And that's the problem. You're chasing everybody and trying to be everything to everybody. And that's not the fastest and easiest way to build, grow, and scale a book. So that would be my advice, is to sit down, figure out who you want to serve, and then figure out what are the number one problems that I can help to solve for that industry, and how can I create an incredible client experience or prospect experience from the time I first have an interaction to them to the time that I actually get the green light and I get a BOR or I get permission to actually write that piece of business. Create an incredible experience in between all of that that gives the prospect an opportunity to really experience your value. And that would be my advice for that. Pretty much sums up how I would start right now.
Wait, yes, but there's a lot in there, Rob.
There is.
All right. So let's unpack that a little bit. Cause I think that's a phenomenal outline, let's say, of how to go do it. But let's go back to, cause I want to pull out a key point at the start of that, where, you know, large or small accounts take just as amount of time, just same amount of time as large accounts, which I agree with. And I, you know, people like you said, I don't think always understand that. But I also want to put a little connecting to what you were talking about with, you know, getting focused on a certain type of client that you're going to target. I think
Mhm.
impacts that as well, because I think what ends up happening to a lot of producers, as you mentioned, is I can be everything to everybody, right? We can sell insurance to everybody because they got to buy it. And so we
Mhm.
tend to just live in that space because we can stay busy. We feel busy. You know, we're working on a lot of accounts, and that prevents us from spending the amount of time to learn what needs to happen in those larger accounts, because there are complexities, like you mentioned. There are some things that are different, and that creates fear for people to go upstream, right? But
Yep.
imagine if you just focused on that and you said, that's okay, I want to get there, and I'm going to spend the right amount of time to learn, which is, like you said, is not, it's not rocket science, right? But I'm going to spend the right amount of time to learn those accounts, and then you can start to go upstream. But if you just are living in the day to day of working on your current book and selling insurance to anybody without a strategy, you're not going to be able to have the time to focus on that singular type of business that you want to target, or a couple, markets that you want to target, right?
Yep.
So I think there's ancillary benefits, even back to the beginning of focusing and doing the exercise, which I love, of the NCAA bracket. That's a phenomenal way to do it. But maybe talk through your thoughts there a little bit. Like, do you agree with that, first of all, that by allowing yourself, pulling yourself out of just doing everything for everybody, allows you the time to build some of these other things? And, how did you approach that in the past? Like, dive into the details a little bit.
Well, yeah, that's a great question. And you know what? I think it's something that I've also evolved over time as well. So we've
Yeah.
created a unique process to help producers and agencies do this. It's not as easy as just saying, "Hey, this is the industry I'm going to go after," or I'm going to go after HVAC contractors or mechanical contractors.
Yeah.
It's just not that easy. It's easy to make the decision, but it's a whole different ball game to actually learn and master that industry. And here's the thing that I think everybody forgets. And I think it's what a lot of people avoid. And that is, go talk to potential customers in that industry.
Yes.
Talk to them and tell them, listen, I'm not here to pitch you. Or you reach out and call them and say, create a top 20 list. Say, I'm going to reach out to 20 decision makers in this industry, and I'm going to find out from them what problems that they have that I could potentially help to solve. Everyone misses this piece.
It's a phenomenal
Go,
way to build a prospecting list, by the way. Sorry.
what's that?
It's a
No,
great
no.
way to build a prospecting list, right?
Yes.
If you go out and
Go
you meet
talk to
them.
them.
Yeah.
Go talk to them and find out. Listen, we are considering building a world-class risk management and insurance program for your industry. I would love to ask you some questions so I could learn more about the things that are important for you. What keeps you guys up at night? What problems that you have currently that we could potentially help you solve? And when you just have conversations, and by the way, you can also have the exact same conversations with your underwriters who are writing that class of business. Ask them their perspective. Say, hey, listen, can you give me some more insights into this industry? We're considering specializing in this industry. I would love to learn more how you look at these classes of business. What things are you looking out for? And then really get a good understanding of the complexities, of the exposures, of the risks. That's going to enable you to build a world-class program for that industry, because once you know that information, you become unstoppable
Yeah.
because you know it so well. Just by asking these questions, you are you are feeding your mind, you are feeding yourself all the nuances about that industry that no one else is willing to take the time to learn. And that's what makes you extremely valuable to prospects and your clients once you bring them in. And guess what happens? They become sticky. You're
Yeah.
not going to lose that. You're not going to lose that piece of business because they're going to stick with you. The next guy that comes along who's calling on them 90 days out to the renewal, they're going to be like, you know what? I'm good. I got my guy or gal. We're actually working with an expert, a specialist in my industry. These guys know my business inside and out.
Yep.
That makes you extremely valuable.
Yeah. I think it hits on so many things that processes could be so valuable. I mean, as I mentioned, you have a natural prospecting list, right? I mean, think of those 20 that you go talk to, and then you come back, a month later and you say, hey, I took all your input, as well as 19 other companies, and we went out and we built the best in class, risk management program for your industry. I'd love to get your feedback on it.
Yeah. Oh,
They're probably not going to say no.
that's that's the one piece I did forget to say is imagine the enormous amount of confidence
Yeah.
that this
Yeah.
builds inside of you when you go and talk to another prospect. Imagine the level of confidence that you have. You're like, man, I'm dialed in. I know exactly what problems I can solve. All I need to do is ask the right questions and listen, and then follow up. And there, you're increasing your opportunities exponentially when you do this. because your confidence is through the roof. You know what you're dialed into everything possible
Yeah.
about that industry. So now you become unstoppable in many ways because you are the go-to, you are the expert, and that just breeds and builds so much confidence.
Oh, totally. So, I mean, just think about how it changes even just your prospecting, like a cold call type prospecting, where you can now say something like, we spent the time to go out and interview, a set of your peers so we could learn what was most important to companies like yours in the industry. And then we set out to solve those problems. And I think we did in a world-class way. I'd like to tell you about it. Do you
100%.
have this problem? Do you have this problem? Do you have this problem? Which 85% of them have, because you did the work. I mean, it becomes so easy to gain interest from those people at that point because you're a validated expert. You've put in the work, as you mentioned, and you know exactly what you need to go solve.
Yeah, and
I
going
think
back
that's
to the
spot on.
complexity, the initial question you asked was, and I also go back again to the confidence piece. Now you have the confidence. When I ask a producer, what's the reason why you're not going after larger accounts? It's always about confidence.
Yeah.
I don't have the confidence. And I'm like, well, you know this industry better than anybody. Like I have a producer right now who's going after a very specific class of business. And his I can see it happening right before my eyes. His confidence is growing and building. And he's actually shooting me texts like, Rob, you're never gonna believe this. I know I have this opportunity now to go after this massive account. And I can see that 4 months ago, he didn't have that same level of confidence in himself. But now he's in a position where he's like, I can do anything. I can call on any size account I want. I know this industry and I know what keeps these guys up at night. And so I'm going to just call on them and lo and behold, here's what's happening. He is building a massive book of business going after larger, more complex accounts because he has a confidence now
Yeah.
of all these different areas of problems he can help to solve. And he knows it now so well that he can pretty much have a cold call or have a first interaction or meeting. And that business owner now knows you're building confidence in them that you are the right person for them to be working with and team. So it goes both ways. It just builds enormous confidence among all the major players that are involved. So when you do go after these larger accounts, man, they know that you know what you're talking about and you have enormous value to bring. And now your job, once you get your foot in the door, your job is to demonstrate that value.
Yes.
Your job is to, even before you get a BOR, start to demonstrate results and outcomes for that prospect. So you can say, hey, you know what? Let me help you set up a safety committee. Hey, you know what? I've got this subcontractor agreement package that I create for all of my clients. Let me share it with you. I'll walk you through the process of, all the pieces that I put together this unique thing that would really add value to your business. Or, hey, I want to run a total cost of risk analysis on your business for you. And you are demonstrating the value that you bring to the table even before you get the BOR.
But
And that creates
Rob,
a
what if they take my work and give it to the current guy?
great. I say that actually lends even more credibility to you as an expert. If they do, it's happened to me before.
Oh, yeah.
You know, uh, you know what? I think you have more credibility when you can sit down and do a thorough policy review, for example, and you say, hey, listen, I noticed you don't have a monoline cyber liability policy. Do you realize how important this is in your industry and how vulnerable your business is exposed right now? Do you realize by not having these best practices in place, you're leaving your business open for potential attacks? I tell you what, I have this report. I'm happy to go through this with you. Take this information and share it with your current agent. Make sure that these will be my recommendations. Hand it off to them.
Yeah.
And guess what? Guess what happens? You just put extra credibility in the bank for later when you go back and say, hey, we're ready to do business. Are you ready to fire your broker?
Yeah. Yeah. And,
You
and
know,
my response to that, because I've heard it a lot, and there's a lot of firms that get very protective of giving anything away prior to the client or the prospect becoming a client. And my thought is, if the client takes, because you hear it all the time, with what if I give them quotes and they just take my quotes and run to the other broker? And my thought is a couple fold. Number one, that's not a client you wanted anyways. If they're going to operate that way, that's most likely not somebody you wanted to work with. But number two, I think we should always lead with value for all the reasons you just mentioned. And if you do that enough, you're going to have enough people that look at you as the expert and see what you've given them and see that they're not getting that from other people or from their current relationship. And they're going to hire you to execute more of that, right? And
100%.
yes, you're going to have people that take it, steal it, do whatever, and it is what it is. Cost of doing business, right? But I think the other thing to consider is have the right sales process that allows you to identify that as early as possible, right? Identify that this person is not going to be a fit for you because they view the world this way, right? In our process, we've designed the whole sales process before they even give us the yes. We call it. We basically say that, like, we're going to give the client literally the blueprint that we're going to go execute for them. We're going to give them all the resources, everything that they would need to go do it. If they didn't need us to get the insurance carrier, they could just go execute the plan or whatever. That's our goal. And that way they know exactly what life is like after they sign on the dotted line, right? And sure, they could literally take that to their current agent and go and execute on it. But number one, we know that current agent's probably not going to execute on it. So even if they do that, they're going to come to us at some point and say, hey, I didn't get the same results with them. I'd like to work with you. Or they're going to realize after the fact that, we do things differently, and their current agent said that they could do it, but they really can't. And, they're going to realize it at some point, or we just don't want to work with them. Right. So that's how we've approached it in the past. And I think I would just encourage everybody, you and I go back and forth all the time about Alex Hormozy talking about giving away value before you make the ask. Right. And I couldn't agree with that more. And so I want to encourage more people to think through how you can do that. You listed some great, simple examples of ways that you can show a ton of value up front before you're ever making any sort of an ask, right?
I totally agree. I think the greatest skill that you can build as a producer today is to learn the skill of risk management. And the reason I say that is because there's tremendous value in saying, hey, listen, one of the things that really makes us different is that we actually have a game plan and a strategy for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to help you actually execute these things. We found this problem, and this problem. Here's how myself and my team are going to help you execute on this year, and actually present to them a plan, a game plan. Do you know the percentage of producers and agencies that actually do that? It's very, very small. But if you actually show that you have your act together and you have a plan, it here's what happens. You want to do everything you possibly can to take the prospect off of the dreaded Q word, which you said it once today. Quote. Yeah, Rob, I just want to get you, I want to get a quote. By doing this and having a true sales process, you get them off of thinking about quotes, thinking about price, and instead you're focused on value that you can deliver.
Yeah.
And actually demonstrate those results. So even if you give them humans are driven by instant gratification. So if there is something that we can do to give them a result or a sampling of our value, you have a greater chance of winning in the long run. And also getting them, because we have to do a sales job on our clients or prospects. We have to get them less indoctrinated with this whole quote mentality, this, what I call a commoditized generalist. The commoditized generalist is just focused on running around and quoting on business. And that becomes your entire foundation for how you build your book. And it's the slow process. The
Hmm.
fastest way to do it is to do what you and I are talking about today. Get the client or the prospect off of quoting or competition between brokers. That's the worst thing you can do is get for a business to do is to have brokers competing against each other.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It does not give you a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So making a decision to choose one single broker who has your best interest in mind, who actually has a game plan, who has a strategy, who knows the problems they can help you solve or the goals that you want to achieve, that's who you want to work with. And so that pretty much answers that part of we need to change the mentality of this industry away from this, quote and pray strategy to how can I deliver enormous value by giving everything away, pretty much giving away the blueprint and getting myself off of the result or outcome and just have the confidence it's going to come. You're
Yeah.
going to get a lot of business doing it this way. So you have a better chance, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way that I phrase that, and I want your perspective on this is education of our clients, right? I mean, I think we all need to understand that most business owners have been trained a certain way of buying insurance, right? And if they've ran a business for, a lot of people 20, 30 years, right? They've bought insurance and been trained by our industry to buy insurance a certain way, right? Which is typically go get multiple quotes. And, I've been with Rob for a long time. He's always done a good job. So I'll give Rob the last look and, see if he can keep the business. And, that's how I keep my costs down. And that's how I, make sure I hold him, keep him accountable, hold him honest, they've been trained to do that. Again, it's ingrained in business owners, right?
Yep.
And so by having a process to re-educate them on why that is not going to get them optimal results, you can get to this point where you're educating them on why does it not make sense to have multiple brokers quote their business. Here's why. Here's how the marketplace works. Here's how that creates restrictions on any one broker to go and get you the best competitive quote, et cetera, et cetera. And then I always love, traditionally we go and we get, I call it copy, quote, pray, get on your knees and pray. Copy, quote, get on your knees and pray. And the problem with that to me is we're not addressing the underlying issue of what drives cost in insurance, what drives, coverage, the ability to get programs, all of that, which is the underlying risk. And so again, educating your client on why they should spend more time improving certain aspects of their business so that you can then take that, or an advisor can take that to the insurance marketplace and present it most effectively. Those are all little pieces of education that can show you're different. You're thinking about things different. You're trying to put them in the best position in the market, et cetera. And so, I can't say that enough, that education of your clients, and I think looking at it that way, helping them understand how the process actually works, is so valuable. And again, you're still going to have some where you educate them the whole way and they go try to educate their current broker because it's their buddy or whatever. And again, that's fine. At the end of the day, you still created value there in the world, right?
Yep.
But I don't know why that often gets so overlooked and is so overlooked is probably the right term, I guess. I don't know what your thoughts are there, but I think that's how everybody should be looking at it.
Well, I mean, you know what? I think it all starts with asking the right questions. You know,
Yeah.
is this important for you that we get to the underlying root cause of what's driving costs inside of your insurance program right now? Ask that question.
Yeah.
Is that important for you?
That's a great question.
Because at the end of the day, I'm not concerned with how much you're paying today. What I'm concerned about is how we can drive those costs down in the future and help you maximize without sacrificing coverage, help you maximize the value that you can get out of your insurance program. Because listen, I talk about insurance program. You're not selling a product, guys. This is something that is, I think,
Yeah.
super important to really hone in on. One of the missions that I'm on is to productize the insurance delivery, the delivery of the insurance program So we're not selling policies. We're not selling a product. We are, but we're selling a service as well.
Yes.
So we're selling the whole picture. And what I like to say, language matters, words matter. So when you start talking about policies and price and quotes and all that nonsense, you're devaluing the real picture that we're looking for and delivering here for clients is I'm going to build you a world-class risk management and insurance program. Let me share with you what that includes. The thing that we're concerned about when we're talking about price is the way your current program is structured now. Let's figure out what's driving those costs. Let's get to the underlying root cause. Oh, you have a 1.5 mod? Well, let's figure out why you have a mod that high and what is your current agent doing to help you lower that mod, to put best practices in place from a risk management standpoint. That's because when I said the greatest value that you can deliver and the greatest skill you can learn is risk management, because that'll enable you to truly get to the root cause of what's causing and driving these costs. So that's when you become invaluable as a producer, is when you're able to look at that from a different perspective and you get yourself off of this, this quote and pray mentality.
Yeah.
That's how you do it. And that's how you actually deliver ROI to clients. I've had a situation where, and I'll just tell a real quick story. Large manufacturer, just by helping them set up a safety committee, I think we saved them like 35,000. It was a large account, 35,000. I looked at the CFO and I said, well, it looks like we're able to help you save at least right out of the gates, because we solved this one problem for you. We helped you save 35,000 on your work comp policy alone. Let me ask you a question, Mr. CFO. What are you going to do to reinvest that 35,000 back into your business? Because it may have seemed like a really small number, but guess what? $35,000 was just enough that they needed in their capital budget to invest in a new oven for one of their operating facilities.
Wow.
And it's like, Rob, he looked at me and he goes, Rob, you just like uncovered and found the money that we needed to allocate to this one project. So that's the mentality shift. Can you imagine how invaluable you are as a producer or agency if you actually are having conversations with your prospects by saying, hey, listen, I'm able to really help you get to the root cause of this, figure out what's driving cost, help you do this and this and solve this problem. Oh, by the way, how are you going to choose to invest the savings that we're going to help you achieve by us doing these things?
Yeah.
And that's a whole different conversation. That's a whole different mindset shift. And I've even had prospects say, well, now I can buy a new triaxle truck that I can then use and put out in the field. That's going to make money for me.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're thinking way differently as a producer, as opposed to, the traditional way that we've been taught early on in our careers. Now you're thinking about it completely differently. And this is the agency and the producer of the future. It's somebody who's able to flip the switch and be able to say, listen, I'm going to help you solve this problem. How are you going to reinvest this? How can I actually, this is a crazy one. This is probably one for another episode. How can I, as a producer or an agency owner, how can I help you increase the value of your business? Wow. What great question. Can you imagine asking a prospect, what can I do? Or here's what we're doing to help you increase the value of your business. And then list out those things that you are doing proactively on the risk management side and in all these other areas to actually help make a positive impact on their bottom line. Because when you can do that, you've got a client for life.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. There's so much in there. And I think equating it back to how you mentioned the value in reinvesting in the business, it becomes a business conversation, not an insurance premium conversation. Right.
Amen.
And you're putting yourself in a much different seat of a trusted advisor as opposed to an insurance agent. And that's so valuable. So we've covered a ton of ground, Rob, and I do think we're going to have another one teed up here shortly, but I want to make sure, how can everybody, if they want to get to know you a little bit more, how can they reach out? How can they find you online? If there's anything they heard today that they want to get more info from you on.
Yeah, check me. I say the best place is to go to LinkedIn and reach out to me on LinkedIn. The thing I love about LinkedIn, and certainly you can email me as well at rob@hpxagency.com. But I love LinkedIn. I love that platform. That's actually how I think you and I met.
Yeah.
And then we're also on X, and we're having some great conversations on all these different platforms. If you want to reach out to me, shoot me a DM or, gosh, I'm having a workshop every single week now on a new topic.
Yep.
A lot of the things that you and I are talking about, I'm actually diving deeper into. So be on the lookout for, they're all free workshop. You can join, come on in, ask questions, engage. We'd love to have you in there and, just give as much value as we can to this industry and help make it better. That's really, Elliot. I think that resonates and comes through with the work that you do and the content that you're creating. And I think that's why you and I are connecting so well, is because we just want to give and see people succeed.
I totally agree. And, it goes back to the comments we were talking about, a mentor or coach. Your workshops are a fantastic way to do that, or to get some of that input. We are also working on a community that we want to build that'll be a free community as well. These workshops are going to be a big piece of that. It's kind of the kickoff that Rob's doing. But if you want any more information on that, reach out to Rob, put growth in your DM in the direct message, and we'll make sure to get you that information, or reach out to me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or Instagram at Elliot.Bassett is a great way to get a hold of me. Just follow me and shoot me a note on Instagram, put growth in the message, and we'll make sure that we get you any of the details on all these things that are happening, so that, again, we can keep sharing this message and keep making people successful. So with that, man, I think we'll wrap up and we'll get another one on the docket.
That awesome. Elliot, you're a rock star, man. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making an impact on this industry, and hopefully what the work that we do is going to help transform people's lives in a positive way. And, that's the greatest thing you can do, I think, in life is to help someone else. So keep up the great work. You're doing awesome. And, looking forward to continuing our relationship as well.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Take care.